Vanakkam. Today we have Mr. Arun Murali Sundar. He's a FMCG industry expert, business strategist from Dubai. Let's welcome him. Vanakkam.
Vanakkam.
How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Thank you. I'm really doing good. It's been almost 4-5 years I've met you. Last I met in Kareena Kapoor's event in Delhi.
Correct.
Naturals event I met you. Thank you so much for accepting to be in our show, and
My pleasure.
lot of people have been actually following this post, and quite a bit of questions have come. So I'll start with the first one. First one will focus on who is Mr. Arun Murali Sundar? Where is he from? What was his initial, where did he do his schooling, his college days, and how did he end up as a FMCG industry expert?
Okay, let me start with this global statement. Yadum Mure Yavarum Kelier. So that's what defines me. So let me get on a little bit. I think today is also one very important day in my life. Today is my father's anniversary day on a star Tithi.
Okay.
So I think it's a good opportunity for me to thank him for what I am today through your program. And also thank all my well-wishers, and stay safe, stay blessed to start with. I'll split this growing up into about 4 segments, Hari. I'll explain why I do that later.
Okay.
The first part of my thing I would like to talk about is I call it a happy childhood.
Okay.
So though I was born in Ooty, my father then moved to Coimbatore for some time, and then he moved to Krishnagiri. Okay, so the basic growing up of mine as a childhood happened in a small town called Krishnagiri, which is in Dharmapuri district. Okay, that is where it was a very happy life for me. Fantastic friends. I studied in a school called St. Anne's Matriculation School, and then I went on to Government Boys High Secondary School in Krishnagiri. It was a fabulous time that I had. A lot of friends. Even now we are in touch with the friends. So Krishnagiri kind of shaped my early days.
Okay.
And then I would call the second phase as a challenging adulthood, basically because you come into 10th standard, then you got to get into marks. So you need to score well to get into because during our growing up days, the options was either doctor or an engineer. Worst case is to become an advocate. So the pressure was on me to become either a doctor or an engineer. Then I chose to take engineering, and so that was one phase where it was a challenging phase. Reasons because we are under pressure to score marks, we need to study, but we also need to decide a future and everything. And I ended up in Gindi Engineering College as a reluctant engineering student. Why I'm saying that is I was never, my intuition said I'm not an engineering person. So, but then at the end of the day, my father said, doing arts and things and trying civil services, at least you will have a backup if you do engineering. And then I got into CEG. So there were no looking back because everybody pressurized that I need to go because people struggle to get into Gindi Engineering College and you can't just throw away like that. And my brother was already there doing his second year at that time. So this was a very challenging phase for me because I wasn't good in studies because I never applied my mind in engineering. So I had to barely scrape through and get out of the 4 years of engineering. That's what I did.
Okay.
And I did get out successfully out of engineering. The next phase is start to my professional career and the growth phase of me. This started with, I then took on to MBA. So I did my master's in Department of Management Studies in Madras University. Somewhere I kind of found my rhythm back after my initial schooling because I thought this is where I can make a career out. And then from there, I think I had a pretty successful career. I think I thank all those people around me, my friends, my teachers, my colleagues, my bosses. I think I probably was a lucky child. And I think I really was a fabulous run to me. I have no regrets about any part of my career. I started with ITC selling cigarettes, learned the basics of distribution in ITC. I worked in Bangalore, in parts of Karnataka, parts of Andhra, parts of Tamil Nadu. Was on a task force into Kerala in the backwaters belt for some time. I was in Nagpur for some time. So I think ITC really gave me a fantastic opportunity to learn sales and distribution. Then I took a challenge and I joined a company which is our very own, I would say, because it's from our land, Kevin Care. So I joined them. I wanted to join into marketing, but then they asked me to join in sales. So I started my career in Kevin Care as Tamil Nadu sales head. Then I went to regional manager for North, and then into marketing. Then I finally quit when I was the country head for Sri Lanka in Kevin Care. And then I joined an Ayurvedic group, which is called Cholayil. Sure, all of you must be aware of brands like Medimilk and Cuticura. So I joined them in marketing, and then I went on to head sales and marketing for some time before I quit. I had a brief stint with GM Pens. I'm sure the GM Pens management would not be happy with me, but still, I did join them. I was there for a month, but fantastic people, I should say. And then I quit GM Pens to join Henkel as the GM for the Schwarzkopf business. And until 2016, I think my run was perfectly fine. And now it's a different phase. I need to now fathom how it pans out. A father of a graduate, because my daughter just finished her 8th semester in architecture. The younger one is getting into junior college. So now life is another start, another different game. And why I split this into 4 parts, basically because life is never a linear line. So you go through ups, you go through downs. The ups are sometimes nice, sometimes challenging. The downs, sometimes you don't even realize you're in the pit before it happens. And then the climb up becomes quite challenging and strenuous. Sometimes you cause your own downfall, and which has also happened in my case many times. So nobody can expect a 45-degree line in life.
Okay. Now, coming to this industry, what are the areas actually, like, what was all these things which you explained, and when reaching here, this path definitely would have seen certain challenges which gave you some real good lessons. Can you elaborate on that, the lessons
Okay.
part?
I'll put, not that I'm taking from the 7 habits of highly effective people from Stephen Covey, but then I have my own 7 learnings which I can share.
Okay.
The first one is we always go through a lot of comparison between siblings, between your neighbors, between your classmates, seniors, juniors, across everything. I went through a very tough phase during my early days on this aspect because I was sandwiched between 2 extremely brilliant brothers. Because my elder brother was extremely brilliant. He was state ranker. He scored 200 in maths, 199 in physics, 199 in chemistry, 198 in biology. That kind of a brilliant guy. The younger one is a great mix of both me and my elder brother because he studies well. He also enjoys his life. So I was always this sore point, the black sheep in the family. So I always used to get compared, not just my parents, but even my teachers. Now, the teachers will say, "Ni mal tambiya, illiye, tiriliye." So it's like in English, they'll say, "Are you brother of Mal Murugan?" It cannot be. You don't look so, and you don't study like him. So I've always been through this kind of comparison. At a point of time where I said, okay, fine. So what am I? What are my uniqueness? So what is that I can identify with me? And that is when I think I started changing myself, which typically happened around when I was in 11th or 12th, because in 10th, it was a very drastic situation that happened because my father was called for the parent-teacher meeting where they were to appreciate my father for my elder brother scoring first in everything. And they had to tell him that your younger son will not be able to take 10th board exam because he got 6 out of 90, 6 out of 100 in maths revision test. So that really kind of put a big embarrassment for my father. So he came home. He just asked, "What are you guys doing?" So that was a tipping point. And then I said, I need to have something in my own and I need to work on. So typically, comparisons always people do, but then you need to shut your ears and eyes. It is like that blind crow or a blind frog which leaves, leaving the rest because it can't hear. It just stayed focused on climbing. So it's comparison versus uniqueness, your identity. I think that's one very important learning I had. The second one is intuition versus herd mentality. Now, I always had an intuition that I will not be a good engineer. But then I had to follow the herd because everybody in my batch went into engineering. From Santa Maria Secondary School, my entire row of friends, all of them landed up in engineering. And except I think two, the rest of all of us ended up in Gindi Engineering College. So I thought, I need to follow the group, the batch, and not my intuition. So sometimes that may not work. So you need to trust your intuition sometimes because the intuition to me comes from your subconscious level. So it must be right. So that's something which I think people should keep in mind. The third one is, do you want to float like a wood? தமிழ்ல சொன்னா தக்க தண்ணியில போகும்போது போற வழி எல்லாம் போகும். So it doesn't have an objective. It doesn't have anything. I had a life like that. So I was just happy-go-lucky guy. I was just moving, floating, whichever way it took. I finished 10th. Then everybody, my friends joined maths, physics, chemistry, computer science. I also did. I should do that. Then everybody took engineering entrance exams. I also took engineering entrance exams. So it was like I was flowing like a wood in water. So but then I also realized at some point of time, it is, can you be a determined caterpillar to become a butterfly? Because you chart your path. So you don't just float. You need to have your own objectives. So that's when I think the engineering, well, 4 years I struggled to pass out, but I was also thinking what I should do, where I am good at, and how should I transform from being a caterpillar to a butterfly. I think that's something which everybody should do. Floating like a log doesn't make any sense for anybody. The fourth one is preconceived notions. Typically, people, when you approach a situation, you have developed some feelings saying, I will be able to do it, I will not be able to do it. You will not be open. So for me, it's also one of my life moments with one person. Now, I approached, but then I think I ended up being closed and I was in a very negative frame of mind. And then I ended up understanding that whole thing from the negative perspective, and I just left it. So it was definitely a very important, a miss in the life. So what that taught me is you need to be open. You can't approach any problem or any situation with a very preconceived notion. We need to be quite open. Only then we will be able to understand, grasp, and then move forward. The fifth one is something I call rewarding habits versus entertainment hobbies. What are rewarding habits? We need to cultivate reading books as an habit. I never did it for a very long time. In fact, my elder brother used to read Agananuru, Purananuru and all during my school days, and he used to discuss with my father, which I used to call him like, what the hell is this? I mean, but then he showed his class because he ended up in IIMs and I did not. So I think reading as a habit is extremely important to cultivate. Listening to music or learning music, I think these two things for me is extremely important. Apart from that is health. I don't know, Hari, you remember seeing me about 5-6 years back. I used to be quite fat.
Correct.
And one of the doctor used, when I went and met him for some medical complaint, he asked me which industry you work for. And I told him I work in the beauty business. And he said, you're in the beauty business, but you don't look like somebody from that industry. So it kind of really hit me hard. And I said, God, this is not right. Because obviously, a lot of people might be saying this behind me, but then they haven't told me in front. So, but it is definitely an area I need to work on. So then I started working out and things like that. I lost close to about 16, 17 kgs since then. Though now with COVID, I think I put on a couple of kilos, but I guess, but I'm on track. So I know this is important. So this is another thing. Instead of developing entertainment hobbies like going out, binge eating, drinking, and things like that, it's not bad, but then I think they cannot become your hobbies. So there we need to draw a line. So that's the other one. The third one is aspiration versus the sixth one is aspiration versus effort. Everybody aspires to be something, but many a times the effort doesn't measure up to the aspiration. In my own case, since I followed my brother from one place to another, he got into IIM. I also thought I'll get into IIM, and I was aspiring to go into an IIMs, but then I did not make it. And when I retrospective understand that, it basically tells me that my effort was zero. So my big learning from that experience is it is not good enough to aspire for big things, but you need to put in enough effort to make it work. So without that, aspirations will just stay as dreams. The last point, which is very important for me now, which again, an area where I think I'm not very good at, is networking. People tend to be timid. People think they are individually good, and therefore networking is not required. So, but somewhere, some point of time in your life, the networks really works, and it kind of activates all neural nodal points in you and in your career. So that's something which I really learned it the hard way. I'm still not the best, but then definitely it is some realization that I have that networking is extremely important. So 7 points: have your uniqueness, find what is your uniqueness, trust your intuitions, they cannot go wrong. Be a determined butterfly and not a floating wood. Don't have preconceived notion, be courageous and bold. Rewarding habits, more important than entertainment and hobbies. Aspiration versus effort. And then networking. So these are my 7 big learnings that I've had. And I say these are learnings because I'm not good at any of these things. And I know it works because it had worked. And I'm still working on these 7. And I'm sure it should help the rest.
Thanks for being really open on that. Now we'll get to the main segment.
Yes.
Now with this COVID scenario, FMCG industry, all businesses which has core as experience for the person who's paying money, that business has taken a major hit worldwide. How do you see this, and where do we go from here?
Okay, I'll have 6 segments on this.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know how much time we are, and we are on time.
We have.
Let me try and push as much as. So I start with consumption, and I'll go backwards. I'll go the cycle backwards. I'll do a consumption first, and then I'll say about products, then pricing, then we look at channels, then we look at supply chain, and then we look at communication. Okay. So in terms of consumption, which is an universal truth that there will be a drop in consumption. In my view, I think the world is 3 years behind now. You take investments, you take prices of real estate today, any big capital intensive stuff or asset values, I think in my perspective, they've gone 3 years back. It's probably 2018 or 17 level. So to that extent, if companies have grown 10%, 20% in this period, they will be down by 20%, 30% in this period. So we go back to this 3 years of growth has been written off by COVID crisis. So consumption would also have dropped to that extent. The second key consumption-related change which people need to be aware of is the market is moving to more need-based consumption than want-based consumption. What is need-based? Need-based is you need water, you need rice, you need basic stuff. What are wants? You need a car, you need a traveler by flight, You need a Hublot watch or a Ralph Lauren stuff. So these are wants. Now, I think the market will more move towards the need-based products than the want-based products. The third key thing that will happen is this will trigger the near end, I wouldn't say end because the cycle could repeat, of greedy consumption and jealous consumption. Typically Indians and general consumers, you are always greedy about what others have. And so you start consuming because of others having. So I think now this will also trigger probably an halt, a pause, or maybe end in some cases. So this will be another big trend that one needs to watch. The reason why I'm saying is now the entire consumption will now be based on adequacy. This is adequate for me for my living. I think so. Consumption will not necessarily drop because as you don't have to move around and things like that. But generally itself, the mindset, the psyche of people will change to these things. So these are key consumption-led points which I would highlight as changes that we will see. Then moving to products, I think I see the basic products will become very necessary. So the others would be there, but then it will not become very important. So if you look at a graph which says on x-axis, you say most important, frequently consumed, and most needed product. I think that quadrant will be the one which will be driving the economy for the next 12 to 18 months, is my estimate. So I think things will change after that, and I'm sure with vaccines and things like that. And I'm really hopeful that India is developing something, and by 15th August, they'll have something. I'm really excited. I hope it happens, which then means we can all look at a very good Q3, Q4 of 2021. So that's something which is there. The market will also move to more natural, vegetarian, vegan kind of eating consumption habit, so which will be good from a sustainability point of view for the world. Then a lot of do-it-yourself products will start coming up, be it food, be it personal care, even household, like you need to paint your house, you need to do a little bit of carpentry work at home. You want to brew beer, it could be house brewing. So all these things will start happening as an aftermath of this, so that you will start doing more healthy and you would like to do it more private, so that your exposure and unwanted exposure is cut down to a large extent. And the other big category I see will happen in product area is the virus and bacteria shield. Now, this will happen in personal care. You might have shampoos, you might have lipsticks, you might have creams coming with claims saying that, it will not allow these bacteria to settle down on your skin, on your hair, on your lip. So these are kind of products which we can see. This could even extend to clothing, could extend to footwear. Packaging industry will start developing packaging which will be resistant to these kind of products and stuff like that. So there'll be a huge innovation in terms of these things will start happening. And that will be definitely a very welcome innovation that the industry will see in the next 4 to 5 years. I already see a lot of people developing cleaners for phones and things like that. But I think the industry will improve much, much more in terms of innovations on these lines. And when it comes to pricing, I typically in the olden days context, I would say it's called VFM. It's a value for money, which will come. But I think we need to modify that and call it as authentic and appropriate pricing, which means people are not going to pay anything that they're going to charge. And they will definitely look at what are the value that I'm getting out of this product. And is my pricing right? So it is not generally cheap, but then people will say that is the value right. So they don't want to, the contrary to say is this could trigger a little bit of halt in brands which go pricing based on perception and imageries. Like the premium brands, which probably will have a similar cost of goods as any other normal brand, but then they price it because of the brand value and things like that. They will have that extent of room which they had to price up that might come down. I'm not saying it will completely vanish. It will still be there because people will have to still flout and say that I'm one up. So you will have these segments still operating, but then the rooms will get down. What does this mean to organizations in terms of pricing is most of the organizations will start trading off margins for top lines to sustain. So which means that they're going to definitely knock the prices to ensure that the volumes keep healthy and they are able to sustain the business and have a good cash flow. Because this situation leads to a lot of uncertainty, and in uncertainty, liquidity becomes very, very critical. So organizations will start focusing on this. This is on pricing, and then let's move on to channels. Now, channels are going to go very different. So you're not typically going to have, a small putty shop, wholesaler, kirana, and things like that. They will all exist, but they'll all exist on platforms. So you will start having aggregators. It's not that they're going to vanish. Pop and mom stores, in my perception, will continue to be there, but the way you will trade with them will become different. So you will have an aggregator who is listed all the shops in your area, and so you go into your mobile phone or into your website or an app, and then you click and you choose your shop which you want to shop, and then you place orders from there, and you have an aggregator who will come and supply you stock. So this is one big change in terms of a buying behavior and channels that is going to happen. The second important thing would be is the companies would be now forced to look at direct to consumer operations, which is D2C they call, or B2B. So you can't really depend any longer on this long value chain of company to mass distributor, to small distributors, to big wholesalers, to small wholesalers, to feeder markets, and then to pop and mom shows and you consume. So I think this value chain will get knocked down quite a bit. So that will be one big change that we are expected to see. Then the online evolution. Now, the online, what we are seeing in my view today is only a tip of the iceberg, what it can do on shopping experiences. So we will get into a lot of AR and VR related innovations in shopping. So you could probably have a trial room of a supermarket virtual. So you can pick your dress and you can get into a virtual room and try it out. So things are going to kind of catapult in terms of channels and buying experiences very big time in the next 3 to 5 years. In fact, I was reading somewhere, they said what the industry would have done 5 years from now, they did it in 90 days. So I can also see from my own experience, looking at companies, imagine if one company wanted to launch a floor cleaner with antibacterial benefit. The new product development team would have made it a 1-year project. But trust me, the kind of launches the guys made in this last 3 months, it just happened like this. So what the companies need to understand is how did they execute this speed? And can this be replicated, and can this become a process in their organization henceforth? I think that will be extremely critical for companies as well in terms of looking at the speed, because speed will definitely be critical. In fact, I also posted an article from Harvard Business Review in my LinkedIn, where they talk about the usual bell curve of a product life cycle will now become like a fin. So how do you sustain is to keep creating more fins so that at an aggregate level, it looks like a longer arch. So if you're not fast, you're not going to catch it. So it's going to be a problem. So that will become very critical when moving forward. In terms of supply chain, the global supply chains will become state of art, but then their relevance will become little lesser. The reason is I think the borders will start becoming tighter. The movement will become little lesser. So it probably mass movements can happen, but not smaller movements. So what would this lead is 2 major things. One is re-emergence of local supply chain, because the local supply chains were then taken over by global supply chains with best systems, more efficient, economic, and things like that. But then now this will lead to a re-emergence of this local supply chain. And made in India or made in any local country, I think that will become another big boost. So countries will start making more locally and distributing it locally, which will become very important, which means the supply chain teams will have to now start looking at manufacturing facilities, capabilities, local supply chain infrastructure, and capabilities. So this will become very important because you never know when which country is going to lock down. And even this will also create another local problem for a country like India, where the GST actually helped many companies to reduce the number of warehouses and cost. With this, there could be a possibility that they may have to still revisit warehouses by states or locations, because you never know when Karnataka will close to Tamil Nadu shipments. So which means you're probably going back to some extent. So what is extremely important in supply chain today is you need to be flexible, trust on your local capabilities and competencies, then looking at global and more outside. So that will become very critical. On manufacturing, if you look at it now, while, how would I put it? A lot of people with the COVID crisis seem to have made assumptions saying that the consumption will go down, the product portfolios will change to these kind of product portfolios. So they're probably, if they end up shifting the entire competencies to the crisis-led product portfolio, they will have problem once you're getting out of it. So it's important for organizations to look at flexible manufacturing processes so that they are able to adopt easily back to where they want to be. So this to me is a 12 to 18 month cycle, and I'm sure we will come out of it. And when you're coming out of it, you shouldn't discover that your manufacturing setup is all changed and now you need to get back, and you will take time to get back, which means you lost business and turnover. So they need to, while they keep an eye on the current crisis opportunities, but they should also keep a long-term view. And this crisis to me will test the long-term competencies of organization and not short-term reactionary measures. So this will become extremely critical in terms of supply chain. Moving to the last bucket, which is communication. As we all, I think everybody speaks about consumer journeys have changed. Yes, it has changed. It has become more virtual. So you don't have physical touch points anymore being a great way to communicate with clients. So it's virtual touch points. So how do you make these virtual touch points engaging? Will become extremely critical. So which means your ability to be creative, your ability to be agile, your ability to adapt, your ability to listen to consumers through your data mining and customer watch programs. I think this will become extremely critical. The reason why I'm also saying is both your brand salience and brand reinforcement ways are blurred today because everything is virtual. You're buying virtually, you're seeing the brand communication virtually. So, but still building a brand salience, ensuring a reinforcement for a brand, both become critical. But you need to know how do you manage this creatively on a virtual platform. So communication will change a lot from this perspective. Of course, you will still have hoardings, you will still have billboards, you will still have gondolas and face-up displays and all the stuff. But then the shift towards virtual communication will start building big time, and where creativity then becomes extremely important for us. So these are the 6 buckets I would put in terms of what changes that I see the FMCG industry will be going through.
Okay. Thank you. Now, one more thing, what we're noticing, especially here in India, and also when I spoke to friends around the globe, most of them are suddenly shifting to Ayurveda and natural or organic based and things like that with the products. But is it actually possible in long run to continue with those kind of products?
See, frankly, if you ask me, heart of hearts, because I've worked with companies which were making products like this, it's a very good thing to have happened where people want to go back and visit their traditions.
Correct.
And draw inspiration from the science that a rich country like India has left in its chest. But then the challenge will be is the efficacy. So it all depends at the end of the day whether the companies which are making Ayurvedic products, can they make this product with efficacy which the consumers will love to come back and use it. It's not like they want a particular product to show a result after 1 year or 6 months or 1 month. So efficacy. So just because of this one particular factor of efficacy, I would say that this euphoria that we're seeing towards Ayurveda and Siddha and stuff like that will slowly come down once things start getting back to normalcy. So to me, but yes, it's a good opportunity for R&D scientists and working in Siddha, Ayurveda and all to start seeing how they can improve the efficacy of these products. It's good, and if they can do it, it will be fantastic. But I guess it's a long way. And these are momentary changes, which I think people will get back. For example, all of us know that you use curd, you use orange peel, you make face packs. இதெல்லாம் நம்ம பாட்டி காலத்துல இருந்து we know that you make ginger, you make garlic, and you put haldi, you put pepper, you drink that concoction, it is good. We all know this. It's not that we don't know, but then do we do it? Then we look at alternatives which are more efficient, which are having a high efficacy levels and things like that. So the generation will also become like that. I'll be extremely happy if the generation stays on course to take care of the earth in terms of planting trees, growing trees, giving life to agriculturists and things like that. I'll be extremely happy. But then on the flip side, they'll be happy to have rice, wheat, and things like that. But will they have a face cream, a body lotion, which is an Ayurvedic concoction for a long time? I have my doubts.
Thank you. What do we see as best practices from other countries, like which can be adapted in India? Because as of now, you mentioned about the 7 areas to focus and different your predictions. That was clear. But is there anything immediately, like as you said, like in this, once the vaccine comes out, at least in 2021, second quarter or third quarter, immediate steps as an entrepreneur in this field? What should
I would err a little bit to a little controversial turf here, maybe the government and policies and stuff like that.
Okay.
But definitely, I'm not taking sides. Let me be very honest. First, let me say we call all this migrant laborers.
Okay.
They are not supposed to be called migrant laborers. If they are migrant, you and me are also migrant, and we should be tabled like that. So first, I think we should stop stigmatizing them as migrant laborers.
Okay.
Why I'm saying this? Because they definitely constitute the huge consuming population for us. What are we now doing?
Okay.
They've lost their jobs. We are feeding them from the chest of the country. How long can you do it? And if you look at the backbone for every industry, not just FMCG, automobiles, banking, take any industry, somewhere down the line, people need to start consuming. Only from there, the economic activity starts. So we put close to about 50-60% of the people on an artificial food program and expect the economy to turn around in the next 3 to 6 months. To me, it's not going to happen. Unless we find a way to get this 60-70% of the people becoming productive and start contributing to the economic activity. So my earnest request would be for the industry, for policymakers. I know I'm crossing my line, but then I think this is I definitely would like to say this. I think they need to start putting in a lot of skill development program. If you want to say, I will benefit from the exits from China, now you're not going to do it without skilled labor. So if there is a big, say, a chip making company is closing down and they want to come to India, You need a labor which is capable of doing that. So to me, if the crisis needs to be converted into an opportunity, it is not by inviting people and giving them lands to build factories. Instead, it will be important that the government and the manufacturers and the entrepreneurs invest in developing skills of these people so that they are able to contribute to the economy productively. So this is the only thing that I would expect that for us to do now, because imagine if 70% of the people cannot be employed back, we are heading for a monstrous disaster. So I think everybody should start looking at how do you make these people productive once the crisis is over. And the best time to start skilling them is now, not after the crisis is over. So that will be very, very important that I would expect to happen in a country like India with huge population, complex dynamics in between states, religion, caste, and things like that. But the unifying factor is the economy. So if that needs to be driven, irrespective of which caste, creed, religion people are, they need to be skilled to become economically productive. So that will be extremely important.
Thank you. Which country do you see is actually doing better in FMCG as of now when recovering from Corona?
I think China.
China is doing better.
Yeah. See, because I'm not supporting China or anything like that, but then I think the way they took this virus issue once it happened to control and measures and to get their businesses back on track, it's amazing. Because immediate lockdown, discipline with people accepting the government's conditions. Now, if the prime minister says you need to stay indoors, you bloody well stay indoors. Now, that I think helped China to bounce back because I think they went through a bad March quarter, and I think October-December quarter. But I think the April-June quarter was definitely better for most of the industries in China or Korea, for instance. So I think it's a collective effort. I think it's just not the government, and I think people should also support. And for a country like India, I think if people don't support the government, it's going to be quite challenging.
Okay. Now, being in Dubai, how do you see that economy, especially with FMCG, and then compare that with India?
Well, this is a very small market. To be honest, it's not quite big. But then I think the leadership team here, I think they've done a fabulous job in controlling everything. And the support they extended to people, I think it is extremely what you call commendable initiatives. In fact, I was just talking with somebody in a couple of days back. That person was telling me, we are lucky we are in Dubai now and not anywhere else. I think that sums it up in terms of how they've dealt with the situation. I think the markets are almost open now in terms of everything. So it's slowly getting back, but I would still say about 60 to 70% efficiency levels. But it'll take another 3 to 4 months for them to hit about 80, 90%. But definitely there is a very good progress in terms of businesses bouncing back. Especially FMCG is now, as I said, it's basic products which gets consumed, and that's the way it will be. The extravagant and lifestyle products will take a knocking. Maybe we'll see a change in that by mid 2021 or later 2021. But I think things are pretty streamlined. We haven't had any shortages so far during the crisis, after the crisis. We get everything as much ever as we want. So I don't see, they were handled really well. That's something which I would definitely say.
Okay. If a person who's aspiring to enter into this field, say in 2021, entering into FMCG industry. For the existing business owners, you have given quite a lot of tips. For an aspiring entrepreneur who wants to enter into this field, what are the areas he or she has to be cautious about to start with?
Okay, see, I think one of the foremost and important thing would be is creativity.
Okay.
Okay, now creativity will be the new coin. Because it's crisis leads to crunch of everything else. So it is only how the creative use of resources and thinking that will become extremely important. So the person needs to start looking deep into consumers and understand what is that they would require. So you can't make another shampoo and try to be a hero. You can't create a basmati rice, another brand, and then say I will do trading. Now, so to me, it's very important that people start getting creative, be it in FMCG, be it in any industry. I think creativity will become a big coin. The second most important thing will be is agility. Now, as I said, between the bell curves and the shark fin curves, I think you should, when you start itself, you should have at least about lined a few products or few changes so that you're able to take care of the curves very efficiently. Because the attention, what do you call the syndrome? Ability to retain attention syndrome. So RAS, now that is going to drop drastically. So you need to be able to create this hole before you come in. Or when you launch one, you should have the next one ready so you don't know when the curve is going to drop in. So it's the agility then will become extremely important. The third most important thing would be is the liquidity. The person should not bank on excessive credit and very high capital investments, which is the Warren Buffett story of investing only in insurance companies and companies which will not need a lot of wear and tear and reinvest on infrastructure big time. So you need to also choose those kind of businesses where you will be able to kind of keep cash free. The free cash flow should be quite healthy in any organization. So you should not say that I will run the company for 5 years, not make any money, and the fifth year I will start making money. I guess that's going to be difficult. The fourth one is collaboration. Because we are not going to see much face to face. So you're going to collaborate mostly through virtual world. So you should be knowing how to interact in a virtual world and collaborate. So that requires certain skills, which means your communication needs to be sharp. It cannot be beat around the bush.
Okay.
You cannot go for a party, buy a drink and get an order. So which means you need to do something else virtually to get that done. So the collaboration in a new world will be another big change which people need to look at. Then relationships. While all these are there, we are still human beings. And I definitely like to see your face at least sometime, though we keep chatting on WhatsApp and Facebook. But we would like to see each other and build that relationship. So that's extremely important. So don't forget that. While this is not the currency, but then don't forget it. And above all, do something which you're passionate about. Because most of the time, what people do is, I want to do this. Then the immediate question is there a market for it? Do you see an opportunity for this? Then people will say yes. So then go do it. But then that's not your passion. That is not what you always wanted to do. You're just doing it because an opportunity exists. You will screw up that opportunity. So to me, stick to your passion. For that, you need to ask this question. And I like, I'll also definitely say, read this book of Simon Sinek on finding your why. I think that's very important. So we need to know the why and then start doing things. So opportunities will be there, but these are not the opportunities which our generation saw, which the next generation will see. They will change.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any mentors who you'd like to thank to now, and who has been always there, and their principles which you hold on to in life, or bosses, or whoever you worked with, your family members? You can thank them, you can mention them now, and what you
For
learned
me,
from them, you can share.
my two big mentors are my father and my mother.
Okay.
My father taught me humility. If I had to say in one Tirukural, I think he lived this his life, which is Inna Seidare Urutal or Nan and Annayam Seiduvidal. I think he lived this till his end of his life. And this is something which is a guiding philosophy he told us. There will be people who would not want you to succeed, who will not support you to succeed. But then it is up to you to succeed, and don't differentiate them when you can give it to them too. So that's something which he taught us: humility, values, integrity. Because he was also a professor. He was called as Dr. Marco fondly by everybody. And he was a Tamil professor. It's sad that we all never took into Tamil literature seriously. But then he lived it. And that's something which we'll never forget. All the three brothers. Unfortunately, we didn't have a sister growing with us. So, but the three brothers, we all do live with us. My mother, I think she is the best manager that I've ever come across. Imagine three sons, not too much of age gap, because 1 year older is my elder brother, 2 years younger is my younger brother. And we all studied at the same time with aspirations of getting into engineering, medicine. Me and my elder brother went into Gindi Engineering College, then he went into IM, and I went into Madras University. My younger brother did in Keel Park Medical College. Imagine she needs to manage with one income, and trust me, nobody pays well for professors. Though my father was head of the department for Tamil in Madras University when he retired, I think his salary was much lower than my first month's salary. So imagine this lady managed with thus kind of meager resources, rentals, buying house, buying jewelry, investing in our education, giving us whatever that we need. In fact, I used to be a real bad guy because I had the large number of friends and I want to spend. And every time I used to pester my mom from give me 10 rupees, give me 15 rupees, and things like that. And my brother on the other side will take 2 rupees a day. And Anna University from Santon to Anna University is 70 paise bus ticket at that time. He will spend 1 rupee 40 paise, and the balance he will use it for 1 day. And for me, that 2 rupees will not be enough, and I'll be on a deficit by the end of the week. So imagine the way she managed us. They never made us feel that we don't have anything. She managed so well. I think that is where the management skills that I've learned comes from. And both of them are not there anymore. But then I think they left these two very important things. One is humility, the other one is management skills. I think they are my greatest mentors. You can ask me even in my sleep, and that's the names that will come.
Thank you so much. And we have come to the final stage of the program. If you have something to say to your younger self at 20, what would you tell that person? What would you tell yourself?
Don't be afraid of the society. You do what you want to do.
Okay.
Because I did not do many things I wanted to do, because I was always worried about my relatives, my father, my neighbors, my friends. So I think I lost a lot because of not doing what I wanted to do. Because of which also the learnings I could have had by making mistakes would have been far higher. Since we were guarded, trained, and things like that, when your life learnings are not so high. So I think very important thing for people: make mistakes, fall, get dirty, stand up and move on. If you live a very comfortable, guarded life, I don't think that's going to make you a great person. And for parents, allow your kids to make mistakes.
Okay. We have Mr. Samir Srivatsav. He has actually message saying, "Bravo, Murali, straight from the heart." Thank you so much. Actually, you have been really open, and you actually opened
Samir
the
is a
entire
great
book.
friend of mine. So thank you, Samir, for being on the show. Love your presence.
Most of the questions, of course, even though there were like the sections to it, but the way you explained it, even a first year or the first semester MBA student would be able to understand. This was more like a 1 hour crash course in FMCG,
I'm
and also
humbled.
the predictions, and also the predictions part, which pretty much with what the Harvard study says, or what, especially with what Ms. Soumya Swaminathan from WHO has told about the vaccine scenario and all those things. I hope all those things comes true. Thank you so much for
Hopefully,
your
stay
time.
blessed and stay safe. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you
so much.
all who are listening and have a great evening. Thank you.
You too. You too. We had Mr. Arun Murali Sundar with us. He had explained every single question straight from the heart, and he was open about every single areas which he touched. We'll meet tomorrow again with another interesting guest. Thank you.